Most people don't realize they're drifting. They wake up, go through the day, react to what comes, and repeat. Busy, but not clear. Moving, but not progressing. And over time, something starts to feel off. You feel stuck. Uncertain. Disconnected from where your life is going. But here's the truth. You don't feel lost because life is confusing. You feel lost because you haven't decided where you're going. Every action you take is shaped by a picture in your mind. And if that picture is unclear, your life will be too. In this episode, you'll learn the psychology behind direction, purpose, and clarity. And how to design your life from the end, backwards. Because once you see clearly where you're going, everything else begins to align. Many people believe they are moving forward simply because they are busy. Their days are filled with activity. Work. Conversations. Responsibilities. From the outside, it looks like progress. But internally, something feels off. Because activity is not the same as direction. You can move fast, and still go nowhere. You can work hard, and still feel stuck. This happens when your actions are not guided by a clear outcome. When there is no defined destination, your behavior becomes reactive. You respond to what's urgent, instead of what's important. And over time, this creates a cycle. You stay busy to feel productive. But deep down, you know you're not moving toward anything meaningful. This is the illusion of progress. It feels like growth. But it lacks direction. Clarity changes this. When you know exactly where you're going, your actions become intentional. Your decisions become easier. And your energy becomes focused. Without clarity, effort is scattered. With clarity, effort becomes powerful. Everything you do begins in the mind. Before an action becomes reality, it exists as a mental picture. A vision. This vision shapes your behavior in subtle ways. If your vision is clear, your actions align with it. If your vision is unclear, your actions become inconsistent. This is why some people move with confidence, while others hesitate constantly. They are not necessarily more talented. They are more certain. The brain works like a navigation system. It needs a destination. Without one, it cannot guide you effectively. Instead, it defaults to comfort. Familiar routines. Safe choices. This is why lack of vision leads to stagnation. But when you define a clear outcome, your brain begins to organize your thoughts, decisions, and behavior around it. You start noticing opportunities. You become more decisive. You move with purpose. Clarity is not just motivational. It is neurological. Your mind needs direction to function at its best. If clarity is so powerful, why do so many people avoid defining their future? Because clarity forces commitment. When you clearly define what you want, you also define what you must let go of. And that can feel uncomfortable. It means saying no to distractions. No to certain opportunities. No to paths that don't align. There is also fear. Fear of choosing wrong. Fear of failure. Fear of not achieving the vision. So instead of deciding, many people stay vague. They tell themselves, "I'll figure it out later." But later never comes. Because without a clear direction, there is nothing to move toward. Staying unclear feels safe. But it creates long-term confusion. Clarity feels risky. But it creates direction. And direction creates momentum. Avoiding clarity doesn't protect you. It keeps you stuck. Your future is not just about what you want. It's about who you believe you are. Identity shapes direction. If you see yourself as someone who is unsure, you will hesitate. If you see yourself as someone capable and focused, you will act with confidence. This is why two people can have the same goal, but completely different results. One doubts. The other commits. Because their identities are different. When you begin with the end in mind, you are not just setting goals. You are defining the person you want to become. This shifts everything. Instead of asking, "What should I do?" you begin asking, "Who do I need to become to achieve this?" And that question leads to better decisions, stronger habits, more consistent action. Because behavior follows identity. And identity shapes direction. Most people start from where they are and try to figure out what to do next. But proactive thinkers do the opposite. They start from the end. They imagine their ideal life clearly. Who they've become. What they've achieved. How they live daily. Then they work backwards. They ask, what decisions would lead me there? What habits would I need? What must I stop doing? This approach changes everything. Because instead of reacting to life, you begin designing it. Your future becomes intentional, not accidental. When you design backwards, distractions lose power. Because you can quickly see what aligns and what doesn't. Opportunities become clearer. Decisions become faster. And your actions become more precise. This is how people move with direction. They are not guessing. They are following a vision. Living without a clear vision has consequences. At first, they are subtle. You feel uncertain, unmotivated, easily distracted. But over time, they grow stronger. You start comparing yourself to others. You feel behind. You question your choices. Because without direction, everything feels random. You don't know if you're doing the right thing. So you keep switching paths. Starting over. Losing momentum. This creates frustration. Not because you lack ability, but because you lack clarity. A clear vision acts like a filter. It helps you ignore distractions. It keeps you consistent. It gives meaning to effort. Without it, even hard work feels empty. Because you don't know where it's leading. Motivation is often misunderstood. People think it comes from inspiration. From watching videos. From feeling energized. But real motivation comes from clarity. When you know exactly what you want. And why it matters. You don't need constant motivation. Your direction pulls you forward. Instead of pushing yourself. You are driven by purpose. Clarity reduces resistance. Because your brain understands the goal. And when the goal is clear, effort feels meaningful. Even difficult tasks feel worth it. This is why people with strong vision stay consistent. Not because they are always motivated, but because they are always clear. Clarity turns discipline into something sustainable. Because you're not just working. You're working towards something real. Creating a vision is not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. Start by asking simple but powerful questions. What kind of life do I want? What kind of person do I want to become? What truly matters to me? Don't rush the answers. Clarity takes reflection. Write it down. Visualize it. Make it specific. The clearer your vision, the stronger its impact. You should be able to see it. Feel it. Imagine living it. Because the brain responds strongly to clear imagery. The more real your vision feels, the more your behavior aligns with it. And remember, your vision can evolve. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be clear enough to guide you. A vision without action is just an idea. Real change happens when your daily actions align with your future. This is where most people struggle. They set goals, but their daily behavior doesn't reflect them. Alignment is the key. Every day, your actions should move you closer to your vision. Even in small ways. Because consistency creates momentum. And momentum creates progress. Ask yourself daily. Is what I'm doing right now moving me forward? If the answer is no, adjust. This doesn't require perfection. It requires awareness. Because small aligned actions, repeated consistently, create massive change over time. They stay busy, respond to daily demands, and move from one task to another, yet still feel lost. This is because activity alone does not create progress. Without a clear destination, even the hardest work can lead nowhere. At the core of human behavior is a simple truth: every action begins in the mind. Before anything becomes real, it exists as a mental picture. This internal vision quietly shapes decisions, focus, and consistency. When that vision is unclear, behavior becomes scattered. When it is clear, actions begin to align. The mind functions like a navigation system, it needs a defined destination. Without it, it defaults to comfort, routine, and familiarity. This is why many people stay stuck, not because they lack ability, but because they lack clarity. Avoiding clarity is often driven by fear. Defining a future requires commitment. It forces choices and eliminates alternatives. For many, it feels safer to remain uncertain than to risk choosing a path and failing. Boo! But this avoidance creates long-term confusion, inconsistency, and frustration. Direction is also deeply tied to identity. People don't just act based on goals, they act based on who they believe they are. A person who sees themselves as uncertain will hesitate, while someone who sees themselves as focused will move with intention. This internal identity shapes external behavior. Those who live with clarity approach life differently. Instead of reacting to circumstances, they design their future from the end backward. They imagine who they want to become and allow that vision to guide their decisions. This approach filters distractions, sharpens focus, and creates consistency. Without a clear vision, effort feels empty. People become easily distracted, constantly shifting paths, and losing momentum. But with clarity, even difficult work feels meaningful because it is connected to a defined purpose. Motivation, in its truest form, is not driven by temporary inspiration, it is driven by direction. When the mind understands where it is going, it naturally organizes behavior to move toward that outcome. This reduces resistance and increases consistency. Clarity transforms how life is experienced. It replaces confusion with focus, hesitation with confidence, and randomness with intention. It allows individuals to move with purpose rather than drift without direction. Ultimately, the difference between feeling lost and feeling in control is not circumstance, it is vision. Because when the end is clear, the path begins to reveal itself. When you begin with the end in mind, your life changes in a powerful way. You stop drifting. You stop reacting to everything. You start moving with intention. Decisions become clearer. Distractions lose their hold. You feel more focused. More confident. More in control. Not because life is easier, but because your direction is stronger. You know where you're going. And that gives your actions meaning, purpose, clarity. And once you experience that, you never want to go back to living without direction. Most people will continue living without clarity. They'll stay busy, but feel lost. But you can change that, starting now. Here's how. First, define your end clearly. Write down the life you want to live. Second, visualize it daily. See it. Feel it. Make it real in your mind. Third, design backwards. Identify the habits and actions needed to get there. Fourth, align your daily actions. Make sure your behavior reflects your vision. And finally, stay consistent. Clarity is powerful, but only when acted upon. Because your future is not something you find. It's something you create.